Y'all, I sat in that parking lot for about 10, 15 minutes before I could make myself walk into that building. I didn't have a reason to sit in the car. I hadn't forgotten anything. I wasn't waiting on anything, but every sense of my body and every single cell in my body was like, girl, figure out how to not go back through them doors. But it was my job. I had to go, so I went back through those doors anyway. So I want y'all to let that marinate for a second. I know I'm not the only one. Somebody's listening to this in their car right now in the parking lot outside of that job or
Yeah.
outside of that house, whether you're thinking about your relationship, maybe even outside of your church. Engine running, hand on the door, and you already know. You knew before you even park and you've known for a while. That feeling isn't confusion, that is discernment that you have been arguing with. So we're not doing how to make peace with it today. We're going to do something a little different, so stay tuned.
Welcome you all to the Yes Work podcast. If this is your first time with us or your 31st, hey, we're glad that you are here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Dr. Blair.
I am Dr. DQ.
And I am Lady B.
Yes, and today we are talking about leaving. So long, bye, 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 bye. Come on, Anita Baker. Come on through, Anita. Come on. And we're not just talking about leaving as in giving up. We're talking about leaving as in finally being honest about what a space is costing you, what it's done to you. In this episode, it is part one of a two-part conversation, and today is about the leaving. Next time we go somewhere else with it, but you don't need to wait to get something out of it today. So stay a little bit. Stay. This is one of them soft and savory ones. We're going to give you a little gentle and a little bit. We're not going to take it nice and easy. I'm giving all the reference. We got Tina Turner. We
Come
got
on,
Anita
Tina.
Baker. I am in a
Girl.
mood.
Okay.
I'm feeling it.
Yes. Well, this is we'll take it easy on y'all. You know, we love to, we're a warm demander, I'd like to say, of you all, because we do need to push you. So we'll push you in a sense. It's heavy, but we're gonna take it gently. So get your coffee, get your journal if you've got one nearby. Gonna do this together. Again, if you're new here, do us a favor, hit that follow button. If something in this episode lands for you, share it in the moment, pause. You can come on back. Share it with a friend who needs to hear it today. Share it with that person who's sitting in the parking lot right now, right, as you're listening and is hesitant to walk through that door or gets anxiety on the way to drive into whatever situation they in. Send it to somebody and let it sit. As Dr. DQ said, let it marinate with you. And we're going to jump into this episode because we got some deep stuff to cover.
Do we have some stuff to cover? So here's one thing that I keep coming back to, and it's when is it actually time to leave? And I don't mean the Instagram caption version of that question, y'all. The
Right.
cut people off version. I mean the real messy 3 a.m. type version. Because usually, it's not clean. Sometimes it's a slow leak. You look up a year later and you're still in the same space. You're depleted and you can't even point to the day it started. Who's with me?
Me.
Yeah, been there.
Okay.
Right? Been here.
I
done that.
recognize
Hands
that.
raised. Yeah.
And that's where, it gets, pretty complicated because how do you know the difference between this is hard and I'm supposed to push through this and this is hard because it's actually not for me anymore? And, a lot of us really have been taught in our past lives that endurance is a good thing. Keep pushing, y'all. You can do it. If it's uncomfortable, you stay. You pray about it, wait it out, wait on the Lord, right? All those things. But endurance doesn't have to become a permanent address for you. So I think the real question becomes, how do I know if this discomfort is growing me as an individual or if staying here is slowly costing me who I am? Because those are two very different things, right? There's some uncomfortable seasons that's going to stretch us. right?
Yeah.
They're gonna challenge us, they're gonna mature us, and they're gonna require something deeper from us. There's some internal work being done.
Yes.
But there's some, but other environments don't necessarily stretch us. They slowly diminish who we are. And sometimes we've been taught to call staying in those places faithfulness. That's the tension that I really want us to sit with today. And we're probably not going to completely resolve it in the next 30 minutes, right? Because I
Mm.
think a lot of us have been trying to really answer this question quickly when it actually deserves some time. So there's some questions that I've been kind of sitting with and want to pose to Dr. DQ and Dr. Blair, but also our listeners. So feel free to chime in, ladies. Do you think that we're more likely to overstay in relationships or in jobs or faith spaces, and why? And then another question to kind of think on and reflect on is there a version of leaving too soon that we should be worried about too? It's something to consider, something to think about.
I'll just quickly say, I definitely think that my go-to is to obviously overstay in a situation. And that relates back to the strong woman, to the endurance, to the faithfulness. And we've talked about faithfulness in previous episodes, but it's like the go-to internalized reaction. Like if this thing is hard, then, you know what I'm saying, I lean on his strength, right? It is
Mhm.
not my go-to to pray about whether or not, Lord, is this where I'm supposed to be? Or think about whether or not this is growing me or slowing me, right? My
Mhm.
go-to is like, push through. You
Mhm.
strong. You built for this. You made for
Mhm.
this. So that's my gut reaction as opposed to, Lord, what am I supposed to do right now? Order my steps
What are my steps?
and allow
Ooh,
me to be obedient.
yeah.
Hallelujah. So
I live
talk about spiritual maturity, because I'll be quick to be like, all right, Lord, I'm listening. What's your prophetic word?
absolutely.
Somebody speak to me, speak to my heart. Holy
That's
Spirit.
good.
And I love that because I think that that's how we end up overstaying is also because we end up overthinking, right? So
Yes.
there's a phase where we realize it's time to move on, but then we're wondering how, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
What's in my
Mhm.
savings account if you're talking about a job, or is my resume up to date if you're talking about a job? And even a relationship, well, Lord, where am I going to move to? Because
Yeah.
maybe I'm already cohabitating. And so it's in that space where maybe we're overthinking, we're praying, we're trying to hear
Mm-hmm.
from God when He's already told us what to do. But maybe we're not sure, like, Lord, was that you or is it me? Was
Mhm.
that you or me? Trying to get that clarity can
Mhm.
sometimes make us stay longer than we should. And also, I got to second Dr. Blair with feeling like, oh, I'm strong. They ain't gonna run me off. Oh no, I'm gonna
Mhm.
Right.
fight this. Who they think they messing with? Who gonna check me, boo?
Oh,
Because I got
don't you
something to do or something to prove.
right.
And
Yeah.
so, really, again, we have to turn to God and get that clarity and make sure we're listening so we can be obedient.
Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love that because, I think about sometimes we're getting mixed messages, right? Our society is giving us and sending mixed messages because I attended a church recently and that message was, you're built for this. Exactly what you said, Dr. Blair. That was the subject. We're built for
Mm.
this. You can handle it. You can withstand this. Endure the struggle. And it's like, okay, are we to endure the struggle or are we to just leave those burdens to the side, cast that on God, be done, move on,
Yeah.
trust. So there's so many things and I can't wait to get more in depth into it. So let's zoom out for a second because this isn't just a personal question for us. This is a whole cultural discussion.
So, if you've been anywhere near Black women's spaces on social media for the last couple of years, you've seen the word discernment, right? And we've already brought it up in this episode. And it went from being churchy to honestly being an everyday word, which personally I think I love because I think it just kind of speaks to our ability to recognize our roots and us, extending and reaching back to the church. Because, yes, it's
Yes.
discernment. It becomes almost a genre of its own right. So there's
Mm.
also protecting your peace, discernment over duty. I'm not available for that anymore, or I don't feel that in my spirit. It's not giving
Mm.
what it needs to give. A lot of language,
Yeah.
depending on who
I
you
think
are,
of
where
Dr.
you
Blair. I
from.
don't feel like my what?
And my
Shanana?
shanana.
Okay, yes, yes. So the language is everywhere right now. It might sound different, but it's giving the same thing. We talked about it in friendships in episode 20, and we went deep in episode 23 when caution feels holy. And I think it's less about people wanting to be dramatic and more about a whole generation of us finally having words for something we felt but couldn't always articulate. And yes, there's also been a real wave of women, including some pretty public figures, talking
Oh,
openly about walking away from things that they thought they'd stay in forever. Forever, ever, forever, ever.
forever.
Forever, ever, right? So Tabitha Brown has spoken more than once about stepping away from acting roles and situations that conflicted with her faith and her peace. And if you know Auntie Tab,
Baby.
okay, she done been through some things, and just to hear her
Yes.
journey about her own personal health and turning her life over to
Yeah.
God, and I think it's, if memory serves me correctly, she was in the church and she was faithful, but she wasn't yet being obedient. So when she transitioned into that obedience, she was
Baby.
able to get some clarity for her health and more boldly walk away from some of those things, if memory serves me correctly. If you,
Mhm.
Auntie Tab, come check me, boo. Let me know if I got that right or not. Okay?
That part. I love
But who
that.
Good
y'all
And
book.
got? Who
She
y'all
has a
got?
great book too. Yeah.
I love that. And her cute little her children, I was gonna say children's ministry. Look at that. Bless the Lord, right?
Mm,
But her
It's coming. Maybe it's coming. You know,
it may
spoke
be
over
coming,
her.
but she has little kid videos and she's doing amazing. And it's
Oh.
awesome to see what God will do in your life when you just say, I surrender. I'm
Yes.
yours. I immediately think of Tia Mowry and how open she was in interviews about choosing to leave her marriage, even though, by her own account, nothing catastrophic had happened. Let's be real, y'all. I got assumptions. But she said nothing big happened, right? She talked about growing as a person and realizing the relationship just couldn't hold who she was becoming. And I identify with that because whoever you are with, they have to grow with you. And I want to acknowledge it doesn't necessarily have to be at the same pace, but you need to see that they are maturing, that they are developing in a way that's going to eventually align and match with you. And so I appreciate her ability to say, I had to go because I saw me doing these things and prayerfully the Lord doing these things in me. And I look at you and you're not, what I'm saying, you're not my spiritual guide and my spiritual leader and my like what's happening here. I actually just talked to a really good friend of mine about that because she's in a long-term relationship and she started going to church and she is, it's beautiful what God is doing in her life as far as her being able to articulate and communicate just the unexplainable peace that he can give. And I asked the question, I said, well, is Boo going? No, he not. I said, all right. It's going to be a reckoning
And
that will eventually happen as you grow your intimacy with God and he ain't there with you. We're going to let it, some people need the experience. So let it happen. But I think immediately to that. Like if you're not growing with me, if I'm on this ground praying flat on my face, baby, you better be on this ground praying with me. Whatever your prayer is, let it be. But
Mhm.
we got to be in alignment
Yes.
with that.
Yes. And so that is speaking to how it shows up in relationships, but it does also show up in those career conversations too. So, of course,
Yes.
there's quiet quitting,
Mm.
which is a phrase that blew up a few years back.
Yeah.
And what people are just like, bye, like they're not turning in their 2 weeks' notice.
Baby.
That quiet quitting, or maybe they've just become disengaged
Mm-hmm.
from their jobs that no longer deserve their full investment. I feel like I'm slightly guilty of that in a couple of past roles where I realize, like, I'm just here so I don't get fined. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. And we got to
Yes.
also recognize that our 80-70% is like other people's 110%.
Well,
But
Dr. Blair, we only got but so much time in this episode because that's a
yeah,
that's a whole series. Okay.
keep the episode topics coming. We have
okay.
more
We write
ideas.
it
I love
down.
that. But you know what? We also have, our faith spaces and
Yeah.
specifically the terminology I hear all the time is church hurt, right? It's become its own conversation. I remember I went to Wawa trying to invite a lady to church. I'm just like spreading the word. Come to my church. Come, enjoy and fellowship with us. And it's the faces for me because they start looking all like, girl. What church you go to? Like, you can see it already. And I'm like, well, what happened? And she's like, girl, I experienced that church hurt, and it's like, wow, that's all people have to say now is just church hurt. We not going into detail of what it is or anything. But, it's not necessarily a new thing, but it's definitely become more publicly named than it used to be, right? You don't think people been church hurt back then? I'm sure.
Right.
It's been. But people are talking very openly about leaving congregations, leaving their, places of worship, even leaving, certain denominations, people becoming atheists, people saying like, I don't believe in God. I used to, this happened in my family, whatever so-and-so did, whatever, and I don't have faith anymore. There's some people who have said like, no, I still know God or I'm spiritual.
Spiritual. That's
Girl.
that new age, baby.
I'm
I got that on the
little-
list for us to talk about in an episode. That's
Oh.
because that right, it's a movement. Like
It's a
people really want to
movement.
claim that as opposed to acknowledging the fact that you're separated from God. That's what it is. You can label it however you want.
Yes.
You have separated yourself from God by saying you spiritual. By saying, well, when you religious, you trying to put laws on it. And I just, I believe, I trust him.
Yeah.
And how?
Do you?
That part.
That-
That's a whole
that
episode.
sounds
Like
like
you
a-
said, you told me to stay on topic. I'm going to
You're
stay
right.
strong, Dr. DQ.
You right. So you right. But I
Ooh.
think that distinction actually matters, right? Especially when you talk about how people leave congregations and then leave the denominations without actually leaving God. So that distinction matters, and it's leaving a place, but not necessarily leaving the faith or leaving the relationship, even though there's scriptures that tell us we're supposed to be in that
Let me tell you.
of the Lord.
What it's leaving is leaving a gap for the enemy to say, I'm going to slide right on in here.
Oh,
That's what
yeah.
it's doing.
And the false prophets.
Come on.
Yes. Yeah.
That.
part.
Because we don't watch way too many cult documentaries.
Girl.
Or maybe I have. I love a good cult documentary,
my
y'all. I'll be
God.
looking like, how did you get
I mean,
Scientology?
listen, the
I ask too many
brainwashing is
questions.
real. The brainwashing is so real.
It's real. And it's
But
when
yeah.
you get to when you're desperate and then you separate and you're like, well, I'm spiritual and I believe, or I'm agnostic. So I know that there's
Mhm.
something out there,
The
but I don't
universe.
really.
Yes. There's something.
The universe. But who created the universe? So you got to back
Come
that thing all
on.
the way up. Back it all the way up. Oh my goodness. But okay, so if we are talking about protecting peace, let's focus on that because I feel like that's kind of universal. And if protecting your peace is actually helping people, or that's what they're actually saying, do you ladies feel like it's helping people discern better? Or are they using it as like an excuse or something to get out of doing that internal work? Because we all know life is hard, life is challenging, but are we so quick to file this discomfort and this discernment, or calling it discernment and protecting our peace? Are we just leaving that internal work up for grabs, or that's just how I am, that's how the Lord made me? Like what y'all got?
Yes. Let me tell you, I put a big old period at the end of that.
Yes.
My pastor talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and he had the whole church just feeling salty because he said, y'all want to use this phrase, protect your peace. And he was like, y'all just don't know how to. Y'all not good at relationships. Y'all don't have communication skills. Y'all don't have competencies around. He started naming these things and we was all looking like, he was like, it's a scapegoat. You have to, when the Spirit is guiding you, it's building skills in you to be able to do the things that he has called you to do. So when you are like, let me protect my peace, I got to leave this space. I can't mess with you no more. I can't, because I don't know how to communicate with you that you don't hurt my feelings and that this is what the boundary is and this is the expectation. And then how do we work with this together? My go-to is like, let me leave because I need to protect my peace. Baby, he called all of us out. We was all looking like,
I love that. Yeah, I totally agree. Like the protect your peace thing is it is well overdone at this point on social
Yes.
media. I think that all of my reels just about at this point is like, sis, protect your peace. You know, you got to do this and listen to this. But you're right, Dr. Blair. Like, and I like what your pastor shared. You do. It's internal work. There's work to be done. You are using it as a scapegoat. You are trying to just push things to the side and not owning it for
Mm,
yourself. Like you have to own that you have a part to play in this as well,
that's right.
right? Sometimes we leave and make excuses and we are pointing our fingers at the other person or the environment. But really, we need to do some deep internal reflection because a lot of it could be something that's happening inside.
Exactly. Because what I'm hearing, if we were to sum this up, is that avoidance and peace are not synonymous,
Right.
Exactly.
and they are being treated as such.
Yeah,
Mm, mm, mm.
that's good. That's a
Ooh, we
word.
could. I did just want us to call it out and talk about it a little bit because I think a lot of us are hearing this language and we're absorbing this language and we're part of these conversations. And I think that as Christian women, it's important for us to recognize that and be able to call it out and then perhaps minister or engage with
Mm,
other people about that. So, ladies and gents, listeners, when y'all hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm just protecting my peace," maybe dig in a little bit and ask them about it.
yes. Yeah, I love that.
No judgment, just dig like, "Oh, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Yes.
What does it look like?"
What do you mean by
Mhm.
that? I like it. I like it. So this is the part we're gonna pause because we talking, in general, and we're gonna get specific. We're gonna talk about from our lives. So because I know all three of us have a story here, a job, a relationship, a church, maybe all three, a place where we stayed longer than we probably ought to, should have. And I want us to actually go there. So I'll start off with a frame, not a full story, because I think the shape of it matters before the details, the granular things come up here. There was a season where I kept telling myself, it's not that bad. Right. Every single time something happened that made it actually clear that it was that bad, I still said, like, it ain't, you got this, girl. It ain't that. Again, that internal script that we have and leaning into the culture and our ancestors. And I remember a specific moment where, and I'll share a moment specifically within my marriage where something in me just kind of like quieted and numb. There are moments, and I am so blessed as to where my marriage is right now and my relationship with my husband. Listen, I don't know. Lady B, how many years we in? Because I know I got to go off of yours to then.
Girl, we 13,
Thank
13.
you. Bless the
Yeah.
Lord. It's a lot of years. It's a lot of years. Thank you, Lord, for all those years. And some of them have been hard. And we say the full year, right? But there's these bouts, and we tend to remember the difficult and challenging things more
Mhm.
so, unfortunately, than the really good moments. But there was a time where, I stopped fighting for it. And I got to this point where I was like, and you think through the things like, I'm an independent woman and I could do this and I could leave. I remember just feeling this numbness. And it wasn't peace, but it was a numbness as far as like what I was feeling within the marriage. The potential of walking away from it, what that would look like. It was kind of like a warning light going dim. Like you think of it like flashing and the light like slowing down and getting dimmer. And it's very different from peace because I didn't feel peace about it. I just felt like I was going through the motions, or I was like, this is just it. Like complete numbness. And it was in that moment, and I thank God for it, where I think it was someone who actually told me, he was like, God doesn't want marriages to fail. We have people, and I remember reading and looking up articles like, when is it okay to divorce? Because I was like, Lord, I don't want to go against you. You got
Uh-huh.
this covenant. My girls was there. I jumped over the broom. I don't know where the broom is, but I jumped over the broom, all the things. I don't want to go. And, I remember reading things, and I remember specifically thinking in this moment of numbness that, like, he doesn't want your marriage to fail. So I was mentally preparing for, you should leave. Like, it's not supposed to look like this. It's not, as opposed to leaning into, God, what are you trying to give me in these moments? Where am I? Because I was stagnant. Talk about growing versus slowing. I was slowing because it was
Mhm.
like I wanted to be stuck in that unhappiness
Oh,
and the
yeah.
resentment and the bitterness.
Mhm.
And so that was my moment, right? Of like, okay, I hear it's time to go, it's time to leave, all these things, but it wasn't actually in alignment with the Lord. So I want to ask you both, and it don't have to be that deep because I went, listen, listeners, you see how deep we go with y'all? You see how transparent and vulnerable we get
Girl.
with y'all listeners? We love you. So I want to ask you, ladies, was there a moment like that for you? A moment where that light started dimming, maybe where you started feeling like you were just going through the motions. It was a numbness, a turning point, right? Where you just kind of stopped fighting for something or paying attention to like a failing dynamic within a situation.
Well, I would love to tap on to what you said because I have often compared those interactions with my husband and with some other people too, like pencil with an eraser, right? So every
Mm.
time something happens, you use that eraser. Every time something happens, you use that eraser. And eventually that eraser gets less and less and less. And you're still there. You're absolutely still there, but you just almost really don't have it anymore. You have
Mm.
less to give. You have less time and less opportunities because you've used them up using that eraser. But what this makes me think about from my own personal experience is a job that I was working at one point in time, and it just wore me out. I was
Yeah.
exhausted. I used to get those Sunday scaries, is what I call them.
Mm.
Well, really, it was Sunday night depression where I didn't want to go to work the next day. Like I'd be moody, snappy, irritable for no reason. So the turning point for me was when I was able to recognize that I was unhappy and there wasn't like a single event that would spawn that unhappiness where I was unhappy at home. And it had nothing to do with what was going on in the home. I had the physical signs where I'd be tired. I would dread going to work. And so that really was the turning point for me where I was like, Marshawn Lynch, bro, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm show up. I'm checking my
Oh.
leave balances on a regular.
Mm.
I had to write little sticky notes to myself at work to continue to have a positive attitude. It was rough.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So these all sound like a life I have lived. 100% agree with the marriage. And I promise listeners, a marriage episode is coming soon because,
Yes. Yes.
but marriage has been that was rough. That was some rough
Mm.
patches that I know that I've encountered. Thank you for your vulnerability, Dr. Blair, and sharing. To your point, I definitely experienced the numbness, the I don't care.
Mhm.
Like, why are we doing this? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what is
Mhm.
this even for? And I think all I can say to work situations, to church situations, marriage, to God be the glory is what I can
Yes.
say is because I think
Man.
the more that you begin to stay in it, it's not just enduring, it's doing some soul searching. It is
Yes.
looking internally. And a lot of the times where I can say, whether it was an experience with work where I needed to leave, or I felt like that pit in my stomach, like, ugh, I don't want to be here, or at church where I felt like I was overworked or something, or in my marriage where I just felt like this is not for me. All of those required me to do some internal work and look at
Yeah.
myself. And instead of pointing the finger at my husband, at a colleague, at the church leader, it was, what am I doing? Maybe I am contributing too much. Maybe my expectations need to be managed. Maybe, there's some things that
Yeah.
I need to look at the bigger picture before just deciding to set those boundaries or back away or protect
Yeah.
my peace or any of those things. So I think that turning point, I can specifically speak to a church being in a ministry, and again giving your all to a ministry, and then you get there and you just feel depleted. Like,
Mhm.
get there and you don't feel the spirit, right? You get
Yeah.
there and it's just like you look around. I have to literally sit in a pew and I'm looking around like, is anybody in the spirit here?
Ah,
Is
yep,
it just
been
dead,
there.
right? And if it's dead in there, then
Mm.
what is, I know that you got to bring, the spirit with you as well. But man, I want to be in community with
Yes.
other people who are also able to enjoy and worship in the spirit. So when
Yeah.
you feel depleted or your spirit is just not being fulfilled in that way, you realize, like, okay, it's time to leave or it's time to make a change. Maybe I need to evaluate if there's another place for me to go to, or evaluate maybe
Mhm.
I need to start a ministry. What
Mm,
can I do to
that's good.
contribute?
Fair.
So that was my experience.
I love that. What I hear from both of you is that I wrote down endure and examine. I think
Mm,
that the go to is the endurance piece for a lot of us. And when you pair it with that examination and prayer, because let's be real, prayer is the ultimate power, right? He's going to reveal some things
yeah.
and that revelation will be, I mean, eye opening for you. But when you can pair that endurance with the internal work, the examining of yourself. You know, we have an instructional guide, like the word, like it's a guidebook. You know,
Mm,
let me flip. What am I feeling right now? Let me go to the back to the appendix,
yeah.
look up this feeling, get these verses based off, you know what I mean? And so we can therefore lean into that discernment piece that we've talked about in previous episodes that we talked about today. So I think that
Mhm.
that's the piece that really resonates with me. Like you can endure. There are some situations where we talked go
Long
back.
suffering.
Go back. We talked about long suffering.
Yes, you
Go
did.
back. Listen to the
Mhm,
episode. So long suffering is a part of our experience, but
mhm,
you have to do the work to see if like are you putting this on yourself or did the Lord put this on you, right? Am I
mhm.
growing in this or am I stagnant because I didn't take the time to just to see whether or not this is where I'm supposed to be. So that
Yeah,
examination piece is really big.
it's
I
really
appreciate you ladies. I think we all got real vulnerable in this one here. I do want to give Dr. DQ time though to just see where people may be because I think that this episode in particular is really calling
Mhm.
on vulnerable, reflective moments and points,
mhm.
and I really want people to be able to kind of sit in because again, I said this, you know, sweet and savory, you know, nice and slow, maybe not nice. With some deep. Let's see where they at, Dr. DQ. Let's just see where
Uh,
they
okay,
at.
well, listen, let's get into it. Let's finish some sentences because hindsight's only useful if we actually let it teach us something instead of just making us feel foolish for not knowing sooner. So,
Yeah.
we're going to use these as our where you might be moments. So, where you might be is wishing that someone had told you that loyalty and endurance aren't the same thing. If you keep thinking that leaving means you're disloyal when really it's just that you're exhausted, but instead you might be calling it
Yeah.
commitment.
I wish that someone had told me that a warning doesn't have to be like this loud siren to be real. I think that a lot of us keep waiting for a big, undeniable. Some of us pray for it. Lord, give me a sign.
Mhm.
Miracle signs and wonders. Give me evidence, right? Give me an undeniable. Let me see a bunny rabbit hopping through my
Girl,
front yard and
make it clear.
make it
Make it
clear.
plain. Mm.
Write the vision, make it plain. When the truth is, I've already gotten plenty of small signs, plenty of micro moments. I just
Mhm,
needed them to be dramatic to take them seriously. And they don't have to be that way. They don't have to
mhm.
be that way. So you may be in that moment,
You
Mhm.
listeners.
know you know, I wish that someone would have told me that what I misunderstood was thinking that discomfort or being or feeling discomfort automatically meant I was doing something right, right? So growth is uncomfortable, sure, but
Yes.
so is staying somewhere that's actively harming you. And I
Yes.
was treating those 2 discomforts like they were
Mm.
the same thing when really they weren't.
Yeah.
Yes. So that growth discomfort stretches you and you come out more of yourself, whereas that harmful discomfort tends to shrink you. And you might come out less yourself than you were, but you also might then start to believe in some of these invisible parameters you might have put yourself in a box, right? Which is
Yeah.
honestly a form of harm. So I can definitely understand that. So if you think about how much lighter you tend to feel almost immediately after leaving, for anybody that's actually progressed and pushed through, that might be the wrong phrase because we're not saying to endure, but if you've grown past and you've prayed past and God has delivered you from your situation, you feel lighter almost immediately after leaving. So not eventually, but immediately. And that tells you something about how much you tend to be carrying that you likely couldn't even acknowledge at the time. I know for myself, when I was delivered from that previous job, it was a blessing. When I tell you the Lord blessed me into something bigger, he absolutely did. So the relief showing up that fast is its own confirmation in a sense, right? So if leaving something makes you immediately lighter, that tells you something about what it was costing you to stay.
Yes.
Okay, so listeners, think about it, reflect, look through your mind, look through your heart, look through your experiences, whether it be work, relationship, church, family. But what's a small warning sign that you dismiss because you were waiting for a bigger one? We don't need big red flags. The tiny red flags, the little gut, the little twinkling in your cheek or wherever you twinkling it. I don't know. Y'all know what it is.
She said, wherever it twinkle.
Wherever it's twinkling at, that should look good. So just think about that and reflect on that.
Love
But I'm
it.
ready for a word. I'm ready for a good word.
So let's just sit with something Jesus actually said about this, okay? I think that this part kind of gets overlooked at times. So I'm just going to bring you all to Matthew chapter 10, verse 14. Here in this passage or scripture, Jesus is really he's sending his disciples out, and he tells them, if anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that house or town and shake the dust off your feet.
Come on.
Leave and shake the dust off.
I love it.
Now listen, I know my mic is jacked up, but I just got to come on off mute and talk about this because, Lord, I needed this scripture. I told you I was ready for a good word.
Yeah.
This the one. This it right here. This the one.
Shake that dust off.
Yeah,
Girl.
leave and shake the dust off. It's
Not
speaking to somebody.
welcome or listening to me and my words. Okay, amen.
So, really in this context, he's talking about people in places that simply won't receive what you're bringing, right? So think about the spaces that you're in and what you're bringing. It's not always hostility. Sometimes it's just misalignment. And we talked about that. Y'all can go back to past episodes on alignment. But Jesus isn't telling his disciples to fight for acceptance in every single room, right? He's saying if the room won't receive you, that's information, not failure. That's that's a gold nugget for you to take. That's a seed right there. And the shaking off part matters too, right? Because he's not just giving them permission to leave, he's teaching them not to carry the residue of that place into the next one. Oh,
Amen.
oh,
Baby.
that's good. I hope y'all listeners caught that one because I'm
Yes.
gonna tell you. That's good. I felt that one. The residue, what residue are you carrying from the past, from something that you left? And you ain't shake off. You didn't have no time to reflect, to do that internal work. You just moving that residue from one place to the next. You ain't
Yes.
shake nothing off, right?
The
So
relationships, the past job, that's all of y'all, that baggage that we bring into, you don't trust this new man and he ain't even done nothing for you to not trust him. But because the
ooh.
last one did you dirty, now you potentially messing up something. You need it. Yes, sis, I'm talking about you. The one who just turned her head and was like, no, Dr. Blair ain't talking about me. I'm talking about you. Pause and take some time before going into that next relationship.
Right. Because leaving a place and actually releasing what happened, those are two completely, totally different things. So
Yes.
I want to be careful, right? This isn't permission to leave the first time something gets hard. There's a difference between discomfort that comes with growth and remaining somewhere that's misaligned with the purpose that you are carrying. So here's what I really want us to think about. What dust are you still carrying from a place you already left? Ooh, what dust are you carrying? And Is there a room you're still fighting to be received in that simply isn't receiving you? I'm gonna let that sit. That
That is
needs to
sick.
sit. Let that stew.
Mm.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Again, Anita Baker, so long. Bye bye
Bye-bye.
bye bye. I hope listeners that you now receive when someone says, "Oh, you real dusty." I hope that lands different for you now that you done listened to this episode. Like let it just hit different. All right, y'all. Here's your yes for this week. I want to be clear with this one because again, we're not telling you go quit your job. Don't leave here and say the ladies on the Yes Work podcast told me to leave my man, to leave my marriage, to quit my job this Friday. Don't do that. That's not what we was talking about. That's not what we was talking about. I need you. That may be some of y'all's yes, but it's not gonna be because of us. We gonna need you to sit in that prayer. We gonna need you to examine. And we gonna have you do some yes work. What we want you to do is name one space in your life that you've been editing so it can sound better, so it can feel better. That space where you're like, it's not that bad. You know what I'm saying? I need to be grateful for having this job. You know what I'm saying? He may do this and this, but he's a provider. Just name it. Don't solve anything. Just name it. Get your journal. Answer these questions. 1, what space are you in right now that you've been calling fine when it's not actually fine? Number 2, is the discomfort you're feeling there growth discomfort or is it harm discomfort? And then 3, what dust might you be carrying from somewhere that you never actually cleaned off? You dusty. Y'all know, of the hosts, I tend to give it, I'll be real harsh with y'all sometimes. Some of y'all are dusty. We ashy, okay? Listen, that's gonna sting for some of y'all, but it's supposed to. It's supposed to. Next piece of it, tell somebody. There is an accountability and responsibility piece we want you all to have. I want you to just take one of those 3 answers and say it out loud to someone that you trust this week. You can say the sentence, I think I've been calling something fine that really isn't fine. And just say that thing out loud. One safe person, get what's in the dark into the light so God can do what he do, because he do it well. Just let him do what he do, baby. Just let him do what he do. So don't think about the next step, but just, again, bring it to the light. So to recap, we're going to name the space. We're going to sort the discomfort, name the dust you may be carrying, and say one true sentence to a trusted person. That's all. That's your yes.
So there's no summary needed today. We just all know that we're dusty. So we don't need to repeat everything that was just said. We just need to reflect and be honest about where we're sitting right now. Are you paying attention to how much dust you might still be carrying from places you thought you already left clean? Or are you paying attention to the differences between discomfort that's stretching you and the discomfort that's shrinking you in real time, not just in hindsight? So this week, are you paying attention to what you've been calling fine? And we're not done with this conversation. Today was about the leaving, the permission, the discernment, the naming. But there's a whole other side to this that we haven't even touched yet. And it's honestly the part a lot of us get stuck on even after we've made the decision to go. So that's next time. So hang on to everything that we talked about today, the dust, the discomfort, the one true sentence, because you're going to need it for what's coming. Trust me, you're going to need it. Thanks for sitting with us today and doing some internal yes work. Don't forget to share this with someone and continue to do the work. We'll see you all next time on the Yes Work Podcast.